Hello, I'm Kathy James Castle. This is my presentation, Creativity Friendly Places, a Weberian Perspective. I've worked in promoting creativity in regeneration for over 20 years, and I've become concerned about the inequality in creativity. And so I'm just about to complete a PhD at Keele University looking into that issue and really exploring the meaning of creativity for creative practitioners. Let me explain a little bit more about it, please. Okay, so today with this presentation, I'm going to propose that a creative place is one that is open to communication, to mutual respect and to meaning, and that's very significant. I'm going to explore some of the relevant research, but by far and away not all of it. And I'm going to suggest a different way of looking at creativity in a place. My case studies I've used for my PhD research are in Stoke-on-Trent. It might be a place that you're familiar with. It's in North Staffordshire, and my case studies are arts and digital organisations. I'm going to conclude that creativity is a shared, not exclusive resource, and a narrative of creativity is important for an identity of creativity for a place. So in sociology, we might say that times are uncertain, things are changing, we're coming to the end of capitalism, and some look for creativity as a way to move away from those times. Creativity brings newness, it brings individuality. And then there are some people who are starting to question that proliferation of creativity, creative lifestyles, creative places, creative people, creative jobs, creative workforces. This photograph down here is, you might not be able to see it very well, it's the floor of one of my case studies as you walk into the building. So creativity is a tool and characteristic of the few. This is an idea promoted by the work of Richard Florida. When we're looking at a creative city, there are different ways to go about, could we say, increasing creativity in a city, increasing the benefits of creativity in a city. And from the work of Richard Florida, the idea that promoting a creative sector, a creative class, and attracting those people to a city would increase economic prosperity and competitivity. There's another way of looking at it, which is an individual and small group behaviour, and one person who researches in that area is Teresa Amabile, and she's really looking at business success in relation to creativity. Some people in sociology are calling for a definition of creativity, which of course requires boundaries to be set about what creativity is. But I'd propose it's now time to give a voice to those outside the profit-making economy and use a different perspective, a Weberian perspective, because, just following the work of Montgomery, places are an interrelationship of physical form, activity and meaning. Cities do need to make money, but they also need to make meaning for the people who live there, for the people who visit, for the people who work there. And we explore meaning. As social scientists, we explore meaning through interpretivist methods. And as Beck told us in 2000, there may be a time when we start to rethink the apparatus that we use in order to conduct our social research. Because ontologically, social meaning changes through time and space. And what we research has a cyclical effect on our knowledge. What we know about creative cities, creative places, creative people is all really embedded in the research that's been done in that area. But current literature certainly leans towards saying that creativity has become embedded in privilege and certain workplaces, certain work roles, certain social networks, and certainly if we have certain places which are creative, then of course there are places which aren't creative and don't benefit from that. The creative industries is a bracketed industry found to be exclusive by the empirical work of scholars such as Finkel. And if we use indicators of economic success, the GDP, for example, of the creative industries, then we will find that those with a high level of output in the creative economy are the creative cities. And perhaps there are other areas to explore as well, where we might find creativity in other aspects of things going on in the city. Investment in the creative economy so far has involved networking, premises, creative quarters, iconic architecture. I'm going to propose that there are other things that we can. So my case studies are based in Stoke-on-Trent in North Staffordshire. It's a fairly small city, and its heritage is in the potteries. Like a lot of cities, it's seen industrial decline, and now the levels of deprivation are fairly high when compared nationally. Physically, it shows quite a lot of scars of this old industry with waste ground, but also really very iconic, beautiful architecture of the kilns of the pottery works. And my research, as I said at the beginning, is exploring what creativity means for people working in organisations that identify as creative. Very significantly, these are non-for-profit organisations that are working in the city to respond to the needs of the people in the city. And I'm concerned with the meaning of creativity, not its function, consequences or uses, not what the impact is, but really the narratives and the meaning. So these are my case studies that I've used for my doctoral research, 4 case studies based in Stoke-on-Trent, urban wilderness, Wavemaker, Bee Arts and Letting in the Light, although they are part of a network across the city which includes other organisations such as Cultural Sisters, as I've noted at the bottom. And they do a wide range of activities. In fact, the description I've written here doesn't justify the amount of and the variation of work that they do. But predominantly they're interested in working with people, and they're interested in working with people who are in some way excluded from arts, digital media and creativity. Just to give you an idea of what they do, this is urban wilderness, and of course these are young people who've gone into what's not a particularly desirable part of the city, quite a waste ground, and they're making things. This is Wavemaker. They're preparing for a workshop with young people, and you can see they've got some tablets on the table, and they'll take those into the workshop. And as is for a lot of the people that these organisations work with, this will be the only opportunity that people have had ever to do arts projects or to do digital projects, work with digital technologies. This photo here is a community event called Space to Connect, run by Bee Arts, and it's a variety of things. There are different arts activities to join in, painting, screen printing, and also there's some food to eat whilst you're there, and there's food that's donated that you can take away for free. There's bread to buy, but there's most of all conversations to have, and it's a safe space to go. This is products of a digital printer that Wavemaker can take around different parts of the city, really into very deprived areas. And this kind of opportunity can be directly linked to skills for young people using digital, a next generation of skills. The work that Letting in the Light do tends to be with very vulnerable groups. So here I've just shown you a photograph of a way that they've transformed the streetscape. The building that they occupy was being refurbished and was covered in scaffolding, which is not very attractive and hides their presence from the street. So they've put these very bright lampshades just hanging from the scaffolding. So just a little bit about the research I did. I didn't use a structured interview, I did one-to-one interviews, and I used a topic guide. But significantly before the interview, a couple of weeks before the interview, I sent a question by email to the interviewees. What does creativity mean to you? And I wrote, you can respond in any form. And the intention here was to break down those barriers of power between the interviewee and the interviewer, so that they would arrive at the interview pre-prepared in some way, with something to share, something to discuss, rather than a scenario of me coming with questions I'd prepared and me then being really quite aware of what was going to happen in the interview. And words are not always the best form of expression. As you can see, this in the corner, the snowdrop is actually a silkworm's cocoon attached to a piece of garden wire, and this has particular significance for the artist Rachel Ballard. And what did it lead to then? It didn't lead to lots of random data. It was reasonably easy to categorise it, and I put it into these categories. Some people wrote, some people did a mind map type exercise on their own before the interview. Some people prepared thoughts and described to me where they were when they had those thoughts. And some people brought along a piece of their own work, like Rachel's, and that we've just looked at. But importantly, what they said was that they're committed to the place and the inequality that's visible in the city. And they have a moral framework of the work that they do. They want the work to have an impact on the people there, and they want it to be positive, and they want that energy, the creativity, to have an impact on the city and the people in it. And they really reinforce that through narratives of creativity. I'm creative, we are creative, what we do is creative, and it has a positive impact on the people here. What I didn't find, what you might associate with creative industries, was any reference to financial gain or making new products. Although, as you can see from the snowdrop that Rachel made and the digital products made by the digital printer, there are new products made through the work that these organisations do. In fact, there's lots and lots of work. It's displayed all around their workplaces, but that's not really the motivation for doing the work. They use a range of skills, in fact, management, writing, digital skills, arts, communication obviously is one of the important skills. So I conclude that creativity-friendly places have a personal, group and social narrative of being positive. Creative identities in a place are interrelated with social perception of the place, group reinforcement of positive creative activity, and an individual sense of meaning in the work being done. They use as well. So for places, for all places, what could this mean? In my research, by not searching for a theory or any exactness about creativity, what I found was that it's very much about narratives. Creativity is very much about a narrative of a positive energy and sharing that narrative, reinforcing it through positive stories and support. So it isn't just an individual thing. It isn't just a social thing, and it isn't just a group thing. It's all of those together. It's individual, it's group, and it's social. And when those things come together and we have positive narratives, then there's a creativity-friendly place. And people can express their own emotional framework in that place. And communication is very fluid. And the people working there, the people living there, feel as though they're positive. I will be writing a paper about this because there's a lot more than I can explain in this presentation. I've skipped over some quite important areas. So please have a look at my paper as part of this conference. It has the same title, Creativity Friendly Places, a Weberian Perspective. And please email me if you have any questions. And of course, you can find me on social media such as LinkedIn. These are the references that I've used in this presentation. And if you're interested, the top banner of the presentations is the Reichstag in Berlin, and I took the photograph. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye-bye.